And welcome to Just Keep Talking, the show where we don't promise to be relevant, but we will keep talking. As always, and by always I mean for the second time in a row, I'm your host, Mark.
And I'm Kyle.
So, what have you been up to, Kyle, today?
I've been playing an insane amount of Cookie Clicker.
Yes!
And I also...
So, I think first I got you on 2048, and now I got you on Cookie Clicker. I think I'm on a good streak here.
Well, it's funny, I was just about to say, so I've been playing versions of 2048, and I found one.
Okay.
I'm not even sure how many...
That is interesting.
It is a redonkulous amount of digits.
That's 2048 on an 8x8 grid, basically.
Yeah, it's just... And I've been playing... I have a 32768 tile, and my strategy is be as random as possible, because the thing isn't going to fill up. So I've been like non-stop playing.
So you've just been playing that randomly and you have not filled it up?
Correct.
Yeah, I found that a while ago, but my screen resolution that I was working with at the time was just way off, and it was super big, and I couldn't get it to actually work, so I just gave up. But yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I've gotten the 8,000 tile on the regular 2048.
Alright.
But that's the extent of my success there.
Yeah, I've beaten 2048 3 times so far. I spent basically 2 days playing it non-stop until I beat it. And then I beat it and I'm like, I'm done, I'm just done. And then I stopped for like 2 weeks, and then someone was like, hey, so did you get to like 4096? And I'm like, oh, now I have to play again. And so I played another 2 games, and I got to 2048 like instantly on both of those. And then I couldn't make it any further than that. And then I played another one, and it was just dead. Like I couldn't even get to 2048. And so I'm just I love that game though. It is a really good game.
I do like the game. Mine was the same thing. I got as addicted as you until I beat it finally. But it's a good game. It's funny how we were playing it and then they make an app out of it and it explodes.
Yeah, it's just been getting like the apps. Well, it actually I'm not sure what came first. I think it started as an app, as a game called Threes.
That's something I never checked that out. But somebody had said to me, "Oh, isn't that Threes?"
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at them like they were stupid, and I was like, Water Bomber is the only game on the App Store, so they didn't really.
Well, I had originally heard about it as Threes. I think it was like Threes on iOS.
Okay, yeah.
And I was actually listening to another podcast, and for over a month before 2048 blew up, she was just this girl on this podcast was just raving about Threes and how amazing. This is the Loading Ready Run podcast for all you guys out there. Go listen to that. It's amazing after you finish this. But she was just raving on this game. She's just like, guys, Threes is amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. And then like over a month later, it just started blowing up, and we got 2048, which I feel like really perfected the Threes gameplay. And then people took 2048 and just pushed that all back to iOS and Android and all that stuff.
Right.
But it's really, I mean, personally, I think that's great. I love anything that makes more interesting games. I mean, it's not like they were deliberately, like cloning just to make a clone. Right. I feel like I guess now it's kind of just cloning, but I feel like 2048 really did improve on the gameplay.
Yeah, my favorite clone of it is the Doge 2048.
I have not seen that one.
It's different pictures of Doge, and it's funny.
I played something similar to that. There was a Last Airbender themed version that I got a little way through. That was fun. But so how's your Cookie Clicker game going?
Currently about to hit 180 billion cookies, making about 40 million a second.
Okay, I'm doing better than that. I had a game started when you came over last week, and then that was on my Linux operating system, and I didn't export it. And I've been working in Windows for the past week, so I just started a new game in Windows, and that one I've gotten further before. I'm in the Graham Apocalypse, which is ridiculously fun. I love how the game it could just be this simple click the cookie game, but they made something a whole lot more interesting out of it, and they keep adding more gameplay elements. and I've got like
Well, it's by far the most
Yeah.
ridiculous game I've ever seen.
oh, it is incredibly ridiculous.
And we were playing it. We had band practice yesterday, and one of the guys was in the back of me, and I was playing it. And he's just like the whole time, he's just dying laughing, looking at it. I mean, I'm explaining, everything. You start with cursors, and you got the grandma, the farms, the factories, and some of the portals and the time machines, and he just, I mean, it's a funny game, and they did a good job making it. I think it's really, it's a stupid game.
It's not a
awesome.
new idea. Definitely
No.
not a new idea. It is something that has been done before. Idling games have existed forever, and they're nothing new. But this one is just thematically brilliant.
Yeah.
Its humor is hilarious. Just everything about it just really ties the game together.
It is a good game. And
I've got mine.
playing it.
I'm almost to 100 of everything. I have 100 of everything except the antimatter condensers. I've got like 95 of those, and then I've got like 85 prisms. So I'm almost to 100 of everything. It takes so long to get anything later in the game.
Right.
It's just so much. I mean, I'm making like a bunch. I forget what exactly it is, but like I get if I have less than $1 trillion in my bank, I'm like I can't do anything with this. So it's really interesting.
To anyone who's listening, this is Cookie Clicker. Just look it up and be prepared to sell your soul to this game.
I'm pretty sure the sell your soul for a couple extra cookies is an actual hack.
I've also been playing Forge of Empires a lot lately.
Nice, and you're really getting into a lot of PC gaming.
Yeah.
Soon, aren't you? Right?
Yeah, I'm excited for the summer, building my own computer and
nice
being able to actually game.
So we got to get you into some good Steam games. I think because Steam is an amazing way to get new games. I find personally the Steam Game Swap subreddit is a nice way to kind of inexpensively get more expensive games. So I'll have to run you through that for a while.
Yeah.
Get you some good stuff. I mean, there's the free to play stuff for now. Like we get you like TF2, Dota, that kind of stuff. And then you're always welcome to play some of my amazing games. Yeah, but you know what kind of stuff you're interested in?
I'm actually looking to get into role playing some RPGs.
Okay.
Whether it's online or not, I'm looking at doing that. Definitely getting Goat Simulator. Because I'll probably cry playing that because it looks so funny. But yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm still gonna have my PlayStation 4. Still gonna be doing that.
Right.
If anybody's still talking about the debate, it is miles ahead of the Xbox One. As somebody who's had both, I know it is so much better. And then we're looking at getting the Wii U.
Right.
The new Smash Brothers game.
Sorry. Speaking of the Xbox One, I saw this hilarious video the other day. It was this guy who he went into different FPS games, and he was just being a complete jerk to everyone, like getting in people's way, like in teammates' way, and just being super annoying. But he had his username as he made his username Xbox Log Off. So anytime people would get annoyed with him and start yelling at him, they'd be like, Xbox, log off, get out of the way. And their Xbox would start logging off. And it was hilarious. It was a really funny video.
Yeah, I remember seeing about that when that guy did that. It was pretty brilliant. I will give him the credit. It was a great idea.
What else have you been up to apart from?
Not a lot. Been doing a lot of reading. Talking last week about reading Speaker Dead.
Right.
And then this week, finished reading Xenocide.
Okay. So what do you think of those?
I thought Xenocide for the first 2 chapters. I thought it was the worst book I'd ever read.
I can see that.
I didn't get the whole story about the path, and it was weird. But I kept reading because I knew I had the book and I didn't want to give up on it. And so as I was reading, and then it brought back in the story from the last book, and they did a great job of Orson Scott Card did a great job with how he put the 2 stories together and how he built relationships out of nothing. There were a few things I think he overdid. I think bringing young Valentine and Peter back. I think that was a little overboard.
That was definitely kind of weird.
But I feel like
it served towards Ender's story.
Well, there's another book after that. Do you remember what the name is?
Children of the Mind, I believe is the next
Children
one.
of the Mind.
I have not read that one yet.
Well, my thought process, neither have I, and I'm going to read it this week. My thought process is that's about what Peter and young Valentine do.
Yeah, I mean
because they are the children of Ender's Mind. Yeah. So I think, and one of the things he says at the end, he says to older Valentine, he says, "Isn't this, aren't these my children?" Because somebody had been making fun of him, for not having children. To which she rolled her eyes and said, "Are you kidding me? Like, these aren't kids. You popped them out of your mind."
Right.
But I think that'll be, I'm looking forward to reading that. Another thing I found really interesting is, the philosophical discussions and the religion discussions in that. It's just really intriguing. It's impossible to read that book and think that you know how Orson Scott feels about those things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He does a great job of putting in every argument, and it's really interesting how he does that.
His books are definitely not one-sided arguments. They they look at every angle, and it's interesting, not to get too little here, but like where he comes out after looking at, the books that he's written. Right. But if you're looking for more stuff to read, kind of in that weird, big universe, sci-fi, not totally realistic physics stuff. I know I've told you about this before, but my friend has made working on the series of books. There's two of them out, or actually I think there's three, but they're called the Axel Rain books. It's really interesting stuff. Its basic premise is aliens and space and stuff and time travel, and it's kind of centered around this race of aliens that created a chemical that can give humans superpowers. And so, at kind of a hinging point of the series, those superpowers are sent back in time to various parallel universes, and these 6 different people get these superpowers. And it's really interesting where he goes with that, because there are very many just totally independent stories from all the characters in that universe.
It sounds like it could be really.
Oh yeah, it is really interesting because he's the way he structured it. He had one book called the Thaf Files, which I have not read yet. Just haven't gotten around to it. But that was the original, and that kind of set the stage for the world and kind of like the base universe that most of the big stuff takes place in. And then he had a book called Axel Reigns, which went over. It was basically made up of 3 individual stories of people that got these superpowers, and just going over them getting them and getting used to them and all that stuff.
Right.
And then he had another book called Thaf Files: Eve of End, which involves people from the original universe kind of going and controlling and going into the universes where people got the superpowers and helping them get used to them. And then kind of in the end of that book, without trying to spoil anything, but they bring everyone together and they have this huge, big battle thing with all the characters from like the entire universe. And it also the way I found this was he also runs a webcomic about the 2 children of one of the characters from Axel Reigns, and they both have superpowers, but during the comics it doesn't really come up at all. It's just kind of a slice of life comic about them just going to school and hanging out with friends and all that stuff. And just kind of every so often it's like, oh yeah, and superpowers exist. But it's like never a really big thing.
Right.
So it's really interesting how he works like all this weird stuff, weird big sci-fi stuff, and also focuses on the little personal details.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to read. You'll definitely have to get me those.
Yeah, definitely. They're very good books. So
yeah, I've got such a long list of books that I have to read.
Right.
I say have to read. Nobody's gonna force me to read them. It's not like it's this mandatory thing. But they're books that I'd like.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from with that. There's so much that because I like to read because reading is one of the very respected storytelling mediums. and so I like to roll along with that. And I like that. I feel like other mediums, specifically like TV and movies, aren't quite as respected in that sense, but I still really appreciate them. So I can see a lot of people like, dude, you're being lazy watching through this TV show. But I'm like, I mean, I get that. Yeah, it's not inherently as mentally intensive as reading a book, but I am watching this stuff with all the same intensity as reading a book.
Right. Well, that is the difference. I mean,
Right.
Personally, I'm one to read a book before rather than watching something.
Right.
I wouldn't even say rather than. I'd like to read it first and then watch it.
Right. Yeah.
Because then you get all the information that you need. Because okay, so I watched Ender's Game before I read it, and I wish I would have read it first because now I'm reading it with all these preconceived notions of how everything fits. I don't create the story in my head.
Yeah.
I don't create the characters in my head. But like with Harry Potter, I had read all those books before I saw any of the movies. With Lord of the Rings, I watched I read the books before I watched the movies. Of course, reading those as a 5-year-old is ridiculous, but I did it.
Right.
Because I started reading very, very young age. I think I was like 7 or 8 when I actually read them. I don't think I was really 5. That was when I started Harry Potter. But I would read them and then I watched the movies and it's like, okay, this isn't exactly how I saw the character, but I like what they did.
Yeah.
Whereas when you watch something first, it's impossible to create anything in your mind.
Yeah, and I can see that. I'm going through a lot of stuff that's just like made originally as a television show,
Right.
Stuff, and I find it very interesting. I'm kind of weird in that I really like to follow like creators when I watch television or movies, instead of just individual series or stuff. So I'm kind of going through and really looking closely at a lot of the works of Joss Whedon, who more recently he's known for he's kind of helming up the Marvel Cinematic Universe directorially wise. He did the Avengers and he's also working on Age of Ultron. But I'm looking at a lot of his earlier work, back from like some really weird stuff. Like I'm currently watching through the TV show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is fantastic. Just everything he does with that show, it's kind of like season one is kind of like it's a weird vampire show where they fight vampires and things, and also she's in love with the vampire and stuff. But then kind of moving towards I'm on season 4 right now, but going through like seasons 2 and 3, it just becomes this fantastic show about just these friends all like working together and interesting storylines. And also almost forgot he's working on Agents of Shield, which is also going through amazing, interesting storyline. Agents of Shield kind of has that also kind of early, it's kind of boring thing, and then later on it gets way more interesting.
I just got this put up here that Bungie has fired composer Martin O'Donnell. You guys probably not recognize the name. He's the composer for the Halo. He does the music for all the Halo games. He's done a great job. He tweeted. I believe it was 2 days ago. Yeah, 2 days ago he tweeted, "I'm saddened to say that Bungie's board of directors terminated me without cause on April 11th, 2014." And then Bungie said, "For more than a decade, Marty O'Donnell filled our worlds with unforgettable sounds and soundtracks and left an indelible mark on our fans. Today, as friends, we say goodbye. We know that wherever his journey takes him, he will always have a bright and hopeful future. We wish him luck in all his future endeavors." See, and he was also working on the Destiny soundtrack.
It's interesting.
Well, and what reason? The guy is
just no. I mean, he's a very talented.
As somebody who's not played too much Halo, I love the music.
Yeah,
and I've my buddy
Acreon
has done some remixes on YouTube. Done a really great job with those, but it's like, man, Halo is legendary and the music is legendary, and so for them to do that to him,
yeah,
and I'm sure more will come out, and I'm sure we'll.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they didn't just suddenly decide, hey, you want to fire this guy today? I'm sure there's more to it than what we're seeing.
Right.
But I mean, it may not, he may not know what's going on. People in there may not know what's going on. There's something going on, but I mean, there's really no way that
at least
we could possibly.
Hopefully, and I really hope this is the case. I'm hoping it's not kind of like the guy, the CEO from Firefox.
Right.
Or from Mozilla. I mean, I hate, you hate hearing things about that.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
I'm hoping they have a legitimate reason. I'm hoping it's not something stupid.
And it really is always a shame when like people's personal views kind of have real negative side effects on their work without reason, really. I mean, it's understandable when you are, kind of a face of something, but I mean, either of those people, I wouldn't call them a face of the brand or anything. They were just a person that does a job.
Right.
So I can't see why, anything like that would have to be a factor. I know. Speaking of just the world going crazy, I read this news article I found it on Reddit the other day about this guy who is facing like criminal charges and a hefty fine for shoplifting an 89-cent drink refill.
Yeah, I saw that he worked. I guess he worked there.
Yeah, from what I understand, I believe it was at a hospital. That he somehow worked at. I don't know in what capacity, but I believe it was a hospital cafeteria or something like that. And he went to go, refill his drink. I guess he had like a soda fountain or something. And someone like stopped him after he refilled it, and then said, refills aren't free basically, and then wouldn't let him pay. And now he's facing like criminal charges.
Well, he's facing federal charges.
Yeah.
Like this isn't even charges. Like this is the state. This is the federal government.
And I'm pretty sure he was also banned from the place, which means basically he lost his job.
Yeah, that's just and you look at things like that and just the stupidity of people. I mean, the guy wanted a drink and he didn't realize it wasn't free. Like
right.
And even if he did know it wasn't free and he was trying to get away with it, that's not a federal crime. I mean it's how many times have we, I say we as people in general, gone to McDonald's and asked for a water cup and you get Sprite. People not saying it's okay, but it's not a federal offense.
Right.
You've got much worse things to worry about. You've got, there's so many more important things than a freaking refill.
Yeah.
But you know what? They're gonna do what they can. Stealing is stealing, and I'm sure the government will have an agenda for this and turn it somehow to Republicans are bad, blame George Bush. But that's
everything comes down to someone's agenda somehow. It just
Well, hey, and looking at that Bungie thing, I'm sure that's part of it's with their agenda. And maybe this is a publicity thing. Maybe this is because we're all going to be watching to see what happens.
Yeah.
Next. I say we all. Most people won't care about the music.
Right.
Myself as a musician, I will care. I'd like to know who's going to be the replacement. Who's going to come in next and do the music. So they do get a good job of they're going to get people to pay attention and people are still going to buy their games. People are still going to enjoy it. So it's it's not like this is a bad business move for them. Depending on what they do from here.
And it's just the fact that there's no real reason that was given. I feel like, I guess we're kind of, me as a Valve fan, I am kind of spoiled by how open Valve is with their customers, where if they were in a position where they had to fire someone, they would tell the entire world exactly the reasons why they had to fire that person. And, it wouldn't become a big deal because Valve would just tell us.
Right.
There wouldn't be any... Yeah, there was circumstances, reasons he had to go where it's okay, don't worry about it. No, Val would be like, he did this, our company, that's not acceptable in our company, this is what happens, these are the consequences of it. This podcast is turning into a much more of a downer than we had planned.
Maybe we should talk about something a little positive, like how I am getting closer to beating this 8x8 2048.
Oh.
You know, obviously you guys listening cannot see, but I have been non-stop playing this, trying to beat it.
The entire time. It was very distracting.
My strategy is to just randomly push buttons.
I think that's pretty much a strategy in most of life, isn't it?
Well, not with the driving.
You sure? Because I've ridden with you sometimes. Yeah.
Well,
you sure that's not your strategy?
I'm pretty positive, unless we're talking about driving in like Grand Theft Auto, which then occasionally it is just randomly press buttons.
And this is why I always beat you at video games.
You've never beaten me in a video game.
I'm sure I came close one time.
I don't think we've ever played video games.
Have we?
I think one time we played like Madden, which nobody should ever play me in Madden unless you want to cry. I mean, there's games where I'll play someone.
You're playing Madden, I definitely.
More in NCAA, but I'll be playing someone, and I will quit on my team halfway through. Like I'll be beating them so bad, we'll switch teams, and I'll still beat them. And it won't like be a 2-point win. It'll be like multiple touchdowns. I was playing my friend this one time, and I intercepted his quarterback more times than his quarterback threw completed passes.
You see, anything vaguely related to sports, I just totally fail at.
Yeah.
Like I played soccer a little bit as a kid, and I was the worst player on the worst team in the league. And this wasn't even like one of the competitive soccer leagues that all my friends were playing it. This was just like the community kids who can't actually play sports go to this league. And I was just failing at it. Now, my sister's team, on the other hand, she was like her team destroyed everyone somehow. I remember we went to one game and her team was doing so well that they had to invoke the mercy rule, and so it was just over. Like shoot, they were just destroying them. It was crazy.
Yeah,
that was never me in sports.
I played soccer for a while, and I was decent. I played goalie. Soccer is really not the American sport.
Yeah.
It's not our thing.
It was a whole lot bigger where I grew up than it is here.
True.
Because I grew up in New Jersey, where soccer was kind of a big deal.
Well, it's a bigger deal here now with Orlando City and all that stuff.
Right.
You know.
Well, I mean, I don't think I even know anyone here that plays soccer, even like casually.
I was gonna say, see, I know lots of people.
Well, I mean, I don't know people in general, so.
I was about to say, I'm more of a people person.
But it's not like, I mean, like, you know, I could go into school, you could immediately find out who the football players in school are. Because
is it because they're 10 times the size of everyone else?
Well, yes, and their names are plastered everywhere like celebrities.
And they're 10 times bigger than everyone else?
Okay, yeah, you're right. That's probably
the biggest reason.
The biggest thing.
If we're gonna be honest here.
Well, we're just about coming up on time. So, see you guys next week. Until then, Kyle, come out with a witty outro. As someone great on the internet once said, just keep talking. We'll see you next week.